Hi everyone, this is Jessica McAtee from my Enneagram Life Coach. Of course, that's my name because I work as a life coach. Like, I do phone calls with people all across mostly the US, occasionally out of the country, to help them like uncover what they can't see about their personalities, because all of us have blind spots. And while there are lots of systems that could potentially help you see your blind spots, I have found Enneagram by far to be the most effective, primarily in my own life, by the way. The reason I'm so passionate about Enneagram, well, one reason is I have a passionate personality, so there's that. But I latch on to certain things that I find to be the most helpful, and then I become very enthusiastic about sharing that good news with other people. And part of that for me has been Enneagram. Um, so part of the reason when I work with people one-on-one, we do deep dives into their personalities. And this channel I started, number one, because I really geek out about this stuff, but also because this is kind of like some other information that may not be covered so much in the calls that I do with clients, because it's broader. Because when I work with a client, we generally only focus on the things that are directly relevant to their life and their situation and whatever their goals are. So today, I'm trying to sort of like build on this YouTube channel, like baby steps towards understanding the Enneagram. So today I want to talk to you about the different variations in each Enneagram type. So hopefully you've seen some of the previous videos. Oh, also let me say, I'm in a tiny house. I record in a loft in a tiny house. This is where I have my desk. I also work out in this loft. Some of you have been very confused about the dynamic. This room I'm sitting in, why there's a mirror behind me, that's because it's my yoga loft. There's a grab bar that shows in some of these videos because there's a ladder that gets up into this loft. So just to get your mind at ease, that's why the room looks so weird and the ceiling's right at my head. Okay, so let's go back to Enneagram. When it comes to variation among type, there's a few reasons that you might have a certain Enneagram type, and then you might find out that somebody you know has the same Enneagram type as you. And then you might think, I don't look anything like him. I don't act like him. There's no way he and I are the same type. Well, there are some explanations for what, obviously, because humans are very complicated. That's the first explanation. But even within the Enneagram system, there are very specific reasons why we all look so different, even if we're the same type. So to understand type, let's remember what we're talking about is personalities are formed no matter what personality system you're looking at. Personalities are formed based on what we pay attention to. That's what gives us a personality. And Enneagram goes around the 9 types, and I'll do this in a whirlwind real quick so you can maybe get a feeling for what I'm saying. And it says, if you are a type 1, most of your energy and focus goes to perfecting things, making the world a better place, reforming things, discerning between good and bad and choosing the good, and trying to be an example yourself for the good, but also possibly trying to teach others to be good as well. If you're an Enneagram type 2, most of your attention goes towards relationships, people. And in that, you specifically are trying to serve them and help them and bring joy and love into their life and make them feel warm and accepted. And also to let them know that you are their special friend, that they've got a friend in you. That's the main focus of somebody who's an Enneagram type 2, is to sort of bear hug the world. If you're an Enneagram type 3, most of your energy and attention goes towards winning, being number one, being successful, being the best version of you that you can possibly be, standing out so that you are like an exemplary person, and you are motivating others to be also better versions of themselves. If you're an Enneagram point 3, you're pretty concerned with looking good and doing things with finesse, and also having a positive self-image as you do it. If you are an Enneagram type 4, your attention generally goes to the beauty of the world, but also the pain of the world, starting mostly with your own pain and how noticing how there is suffering amidst any joy. And let's see, it's like type 4s are focused on being unique, focused on developing the parts of themselves that are different from other humans, to sort of show that they are standing alone in certain ways. And also they like to stand in solidarity with others who are going through pain. That's what 4s are noticing. Enneagram type 5s are, all their energy is pretty much going towards information and data collection. They're not concerned about other people so much. They're concerned about how they can become more competent in the world by learning more, obtaining more information and facts, and living in a structure of them knowing what to do next, because they have worked to educate themselves and collect the data appropriate to make themselves survive in a world where there's a lot of information to be had. If you're an Enneagram type 6, most of your energy and focus goes towards security and keeping yourself safe and prepared, and also looking out for those you love, and trying to make sure that they are protected, and you are looking to make sure they are prepared. You are sort of like a what is it? Like, you're like the messenger who tells people when trouble is coming in the distance, right? Like in ancient days, like the person on the wall who's like, hey, we're about to get under attack. Like, we should all look out for this. 6s are looking out for what can go wrong in their own life, but also in the lives of those they love, and also for their community, for their workplace, for their groups, for their family. They are focused on trying to be a good team player and make this world a better place. Enneagram type 7, most of their energy goes towards interesting ideas and concepts, innovations, how they can maybe streamline things with new ideas and novelty, and enjoy their lives every step of the way, and celebrate all of the little things in life, and also make sure that their day-by-day experience is a joyful one, and sharing that with those around them, inviting others into the joy, but also looking to sort of brainstorm and always coming up with new ideas and strategies and concepts and ways to sort of have interesting things to think of and to create. We get into Enneagram type 8, and most of their energy and resources goes towards getting things done, having big ideas, being a powerful force in the world, not being taken advantage of, being able to chase really big dreams and visions, and just enormous, wild, big dreams, and making them a reality, whether it's in the workplace or in family goals or in some sort of community service, or even like technological advances. 8s are really concerned about maximizing, using their energy to affect the world in good ways, and like make sure the good guys win, something like that. And then if you're an Enneagram type 9, your energy goes towards peace and harmony. You are looking to make the whole, everybody is included and welcome in the whole, and trying to diffuse conflict, trying to live in a world where there is peace and everybody's voice is heard and everybody can participate, and it's like nobody is unimportant. Everybody is sort of heard and seen for who they are, and that we all get along and have maybe patience for one another, even in our differences. So those are 9 really cool come-froms, and none is less valuable than the other. Like, they're all very important. Even that alone, if that's all you take away from this video, you might understand that we're looking at different things, and that's why we're showing up differently. And that's why whatever your come from is, and one of those 9 points, like, you are correct to notice everybody is not doing the same thing you're doing. And I think that's really an important thing, just to stop on that and to say, look, here's a possible explanation. And I'm personally, and I also think this is because of my personality, but I tend to be really interested in connecting the spiritual world with the scientific world, because I believe in science and I believe in spirituality. And I don't think those two things are at odds with one another. I actually think they work quite well. And I am so grateful that in recent years, with neuroscience and new developments, that we're starting to see like the scientific benefits of a spiritual life are becoming more and more evident. You'd think we would just look at our ancestors for that, because most of humanity have had some sorts of, religious practices and rituals. And then in modern day, after the Enlightenment, we kind of tried to turn just to science, but it turns out that science is very important, of course, and so is some kind of spirituality or faith or trust in the goodness of the universe or in God. So you have to ask, if we all just keep showing up like this with these 9 different variations on human come-froms, then if you look at it scientifically, we can make the assumption that all 9 of these are somehow necessary, right? I mean, if they weren't necessary scientifically, they would fade out of the gene pool. We keep coming up with these same 9 patterns of humanity for a reason. Probably that reason is because they're all contributing to the growth and the health and the well-being of one another. In other words, we need one another. If we were all the same Enneagram type, first of all, we would all drive each other mad. But not only that, but we all have different gifts and skills that we're bringing to the table and to humanity. So it's not cool to value your skills and poo-poo somebody else's, although most of us, that's what we do initially. So the first thing that I have found helpful is to try to change the framework to see, like, the people who are doing it different than you, and like they live in your house and you work with them and they're your kids and your spouse and your best friend and your family and your siblings, and you are no better than them. They are just doing it differently, but their way is just as important. Because if it wasn't that, then their processes would have faded out of the gene pool by now. Or if you're coming at it from more of a spiritual standpoint, what we would say is God keeps making us all this different, right? Like he keeps using these same patterns over and over and over, which means that we could maybe make some sort of assumption, whether scientifically or spiritually, that it is necessary that we all be this different. So let's all just find some peace in that, right? Serenity, serenity now, serenity now. Okay. All right. What I want to just tap into for the remainder of this video is mentioning why somebody is the same number as you and they still look very different. So there's 2 answers that come to mind. One of them is, depending on somebody's health, like I'm talking like emotional, psychological health, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist. And I'm just a normal person who observes people all the time. So that's my, that's my qualification. But people who are doing better will present better. I mean, you know this, right? The whole, what is it? Hurting people hurt people. So any of us, no matter what your Enneagram type is, when we are not doing great, that shows. I mean, as within, so without, right? If you got garbage and gunk inside and in your heart and in your mind and in your actions, then it's going to show on the outside. It's like that old, remember the Peanuts character Pigpen, where like he's just like a big dirt wad walking around. I'm sorry for all you youngins who don't know about that. Just Google Pigpen from Peanuts. Anyway, he like has this dust cloud that follows him. Unhealthy people all have dust clouds that follow them. And healthy people are shining light and hope and love all around them. Okay, so that's one reason that you and somebody else who have the same Enneagram number might look worlds apart, because you might be you are almost certainly at different levels of health and development. Okay. The other reason, and that's what I want to focus on in this video, is you might have different dominant instincts. So in Enneagram world, there's something that's sometimes called instincts. It's sometimes called subtypes. Different teachers use different phrases, and then they all get so dogmatic about like, it's not an instinct, it's a subtype. And the other's like, it's not a subtype, it's an instinct. Okay, but whatever. They're talking about these three dominant drives that every animal and humans are animals. Sorry, but we are. That's how we classify ourselves scientifically, right? We have a ton in common with animals. We are the highest animal as far as we know, evolutionarily speaking. We are like king of the animals because of our prefrontal cortex. But as animals, and no matter what kind of animal, we have three dominant drives. And those drives in Enneagram world are usually called, and I'm giving them to you in no order. There's a self-preservation drive or instinct. Self-preservation is that part of us that makes us, well, just like it sounds, right? Self-care. It's like food, shelter. For humans, it's exercise maybe, or having a healthy bank account, or keeping a job, or it's like the things that you take care of yourself. It's how you are preserving yourself. And when you go into the animal world, it's kind of the same thing. It's like when they create a little burrow, or when they go hunting, or when they, when they're cold and so they snuggle up together. These are self-preservation instincts, and every human has them. Okay, so that's one of the instincts. Another instinct that all animals, including humans, have is a social instinct. And with animals, you see this with animals who are in flocks or herds, or primates even, where there's like a dominant one. I think elephants definitely do this too, right? There is a social structure, and there is a hierarchy of usually like elders, or a wolf pack, right? The leader of the pack. There's a hierarchy of positions within a social structure. When you move into humans, it's the same thing. It's just obviously more complex. So it's like the social instinct in humans is like, where do I belong in any group that I'm in? Like, what do people think of me? What is my social standing? What is my reputation? Am I well liked? Do I, am I a leader? Am I the bottom of the barrel? Like, am I the jerk that everybody hates? Am I the pigpen, right? Like, that's a concern of ours, and that's called your social instinct. And then the third instinct that all animals, including humans, have is a pair bonding instinct, sometimes called sexual instinct. I like pair bonding or one-on-one a little bit better, because what we're talking about here is not necessarily romantic. Well, romantic. It's not necessarily who you date or if you're married, but people who are like living into their one-on-one instinct are concerned with connecting to other individual people in like intense and deep ways. So with humans, that usually does mean your spouse or life partner. But it can also be like intense relationships that you have with certain specific people in a non-romantic way, like platonic. So it can be like your best friend, or if you and your sister are really close, or one of your parents, or one of a coworker or something. So it's this the one-on-one instinct is the connection and bonding to someone important to you. Okay, so those three instincts: self-preservation, social, and sexual. Now, here's the thing. Each of us has all three of those, but each of us tends to lean really, really, really heavily into one of them. Okay, the first place one, the one that's dominant in our life, we lean really heavily into. And then the second one in our life tends to be used appropriately, meaning when we need to use it, we turn it on and use it, and then when we don't need it again, we turn it back off. So we use it appropriately, maybe for better or for worse. And then the third place one for most of us is repressed, meaning we don't really tap into that one much. And truth be told, like when you're repressed one, you're like, yeah, I don't actually want to do that. I have no interest in doing that. Sorry, not sorry. And it's really funny how that works, because in the same way, if you watched my past videos on using our head, our cerebral capacities, our heart intelligence and our bodily intelligence. Like, humans are really amazing, and we are equipped with really cool capabilities, but yet all of us lean into some of those and then ignore the others. So when it comes to subtypes, when you mix that with your Enneagram number, what happens is you look like a different type of that number. So for instance, if you are let's just start with Enneagram type 1. If you're a type 1, but you lead with your self-preservation instinct, you will look very different than a person who is a type 1 who leads with his social instinct. And again, a type 1 that leads with his sexual instinct or his one-on-one instinct will look totally different. So there are manifestations of your Enneagram number depending on which one of those instincts in you is dominant. And then there's also an interplay of your dominant and secondary one. So the two that you use most frequently create a certain archetype of a person, and then you've got that third one that you're like not interested in using, and that will make you look like a very different type of person than somebody even with your same Enneagram number, but who's leading with a different instinct. Now, going through the instincts is super complicated because, look, think of it this way. There's 9 different Enneagram types and there's 3 different instincts. So 9 times 3 is 27. That means there's 27 types of people, archetypes of people. And now you can see why this is starting to get really complicated, because Enneagram is not just, your number is not just, it's not that simple. That's like learning your Enneagram number. I say this on my website. It's like the most basic beginning steps in self-discovery, because there's actually so much more to it than that. So learning your dominant instinct is very helpful, not only because then you can understand why other people with your same Enneagram number are not looking like you and thinking like you and acting like you, but here's another thing. We tend to get along with and be attracted to and like to hang out with people who share our dominant instinct. And when I learned my dominant instinct, I realized that literally like my top 10 favorite people, including my top 10, like included in that group, are like my closest friends, my spouse, the family members I'm closest to. All of us have the same dominant instinct. So amazing. Like, and I got married before I knew the Enneagram. But my point here is, like, my husband and I were probably in part really attracted to each other. We don't have the same Enneagram number, but we have the same dominant instincts, which means we are focusing on the same types of things in the world, even though we don't have the same Enneagram type. So all of the types have at least, what I'm saying is 3 versions of that type. And just a fun fact, some of the types, it's hard to tell the difference between them. And I'm not going to go through all of them in this video because we're already 23 minutes in and it would be way too long. I'll do that in other videos. But what I do want to point out is Enneagram type 6s have the most variability between instincts. So in other words, a self-preservation 6 looks very different than a social 6, looks very different than a one-on-one 6. So that's another reason that you look at 6s and you go, this person's a 6 and this person's a 6 and they don't look anything alike. Yeah, that's because of that. The variability among 6s is really obvious. Another number, I would say, in my opinion, the second most obvious differentiation between a type is type 4s. The type 4 variation is also very distinct, meaning the social 4 looks very different than the self-pres 4. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then the one-on-one 4. The best work done on this is by a researcher named Beatrice Chestnut, and she has several books on this. And the ideas, I believe, were first created by Naranjo, which is one of the pioneers of Enneagram, but Beatrice Chestnut has really developed those recently, and that's most of the people who are teaching on this, that she's like the foundation for what we're teaching. her, and then she works with a guy named Uranio Paes, and the two of them have done a lot of work on this. So the other cool thing about subtype is, so not only are you going to be attracted to people with your subtype, and also maybe even a little put off by people who lead with your repressed one. So whatever your repressed one is, well, obviously I already said you're not that interested in that one. So whether it's self-preservation and you're like, yeah, I'm not that interested in self-preserving. It's just not on my radar. Like, I mean, I know I should do it, but I just don't care. I just don't care. Or social, like, yeah, I should care what people think of me, but like, I just don't. That's legit. And then, the one-on-one, it's like, yeah, I guess I could want to have like intense relationships with people, but yeah, I'd rather not. I'd rather just know people in more of a group context. When somebody's the flip-flop order of you, you're going to see the world very differently from that person, and it can make it it's just, I mean, of course you can still get along, but it's just trickier because you're focusing on different things. Remember, our personalities are formed on what we're focusing on, whether you're focusing on self-preservation or social or one-on-one instincts. And just think of it this way, like, think if you're dominant in the one-on-one instinct, meaning you want to connect really, really intensely with somebody, and your partner's not that. Okay, well, you're trying to connect really intensely with your partner and they're not. And that doesn't mean they don't love you. It doesn't mean they don't care about you. But if they don't have that same instinct, you might feel rejected regularly. And it might not even be that they're rejecting you. It's just they don't need the same intensity connection that you need. Also, for each of the types, there is something called a counter type, which means one of the combinations does not look like that type. So I'll give you an example. For type 3, the archetype of just plain Enneagram type 3, without going into dominant subtype, if you just think about an Enneagram type 3, it's like a winner, right? It's like somebody who's kind of showy, kind of flashy, trying to be the best and stand out as the best and draw attention to themselves. But the self-preservation 3, she actually shows up in a much more milder version of the 3. And even though she has the same drives as somebody who's an Enneagram type 3, she has the same motivations, she's still trying to impress people, she's doing it like on the down low and doesn't want it to be obvious that that's what she's doing. So if you see somebody like that, you might not, it won't be obvious that she's a 3 because she doesn't look showy and flashy and doesn't look like she's trying to be in the spotlight and trying to be the winner, but she still is trying to do that, but she's doing it in a very subtle way. It's kind of like trying to, it's like vanity for not having vanity. It's trying to maybe just look like it's happening naturally and she's just winning everything just effortlessly rather than like letting you know that she's trying to be a winner. Something like that. So each of the Enneagram types have one of the types is called the counter type, which means it's not going to look like that type of Enneagram number. Oh, I'll give you the 6 one too, because this one gets confused a lot. People who are the sexual subtype of 6 are, remember, the vice at 6 is fear. But these people do not look scared at all. In fact, they look like 8s. They look very bold and confrontational and very secure. They look like they're very secure in themselves. No 6 is secure in themselves, right? We know that from going through the number. 6s are high in trait neuroticism most of the time, and they do not have a really, really, or just that they're hard on themselves. They're really hard on themselves. But the sexual 6 does not let you know that she's hard on herself. From the outside, her exterior, the way she presents is like she's really, really comfortable in her own skin and actually even intimidating. So she's a counter type of type 6. Generally speaking, people of all types, all 9 types, if they lead in self-preservation, they tend to be a little bit more fearful, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more, I would say maybe mild is a good word, a milder version of that Enneagram type. They also can be perceived by people who are not self-preservation dominant as stingy. Fair, right? Because they're looking out for themselves. That's the self-preservation. They are primarily looking out for themselves, which means other types of people who are not primarily looking out for themselves can look at a self-preservation person and be like, man, she's really stingy. Okay, I mean, she is looking out for herself primarily. If that's what you mean by stingy, busted. Okay, so let's move into social. What's happening with social? Well, the people who lead with social instinct tend to, like we said, they're really concerned about where they are in that social hierarchy, what other people think of them. They can be very concerned with status and their rank and being promoted and having a title and having accolades and being recognized. And to outsiders who are not social dominant, they can seem like they have a little bit of a savior complex. They're kind of real proud maybe of their position and really they like to have letters after their name or something like that, you know. And to the rest of us it might feel a little bit like, oh, she really thinks she's something, doesn't she? And people with the social subtype tend to be a little sad sometimes, like they might be a sadder version of their number. Sad because it's hard to keep your rank in any system, right? Because the parts are always moving. So even if you get promoted to a certain position, somebody new gets hired and you might get bumped. So it's like, it's an unstable, it can feel unstable, and they can be sad about that, about the tumult of the constant movement of parts within a social structure. And then let's go to the one-on-one people or the sexual dominant people. These people tend to be the spiciest version, right? I said, if the self-preservation is mild, I think it's safe to say that the one-to-one is spicy. These people are pretty intense, pretty passionate. So they are the most passionate version of their Enneagram number. And they might stir the pot a little bit. They're into really intense connecting, so they might feel really, to people who don't come from that, they can feel really intense and like too much. They can feel like too much. To one another, they love it, right? They love amped up. They just love the intensity and the passion that comes with their vibe. But to people who don't share that vibe, it can be a little off-putting. And so those are the types of reasons that the 3 dominant instinct types of people don't prefer to be around one another. Again, I think it's, rather than think self-preservation people are stingy, and rather than think social people have a savior complex or a God complex, and rather than think that the one-on-one people are too much and a little confrontational maybe even, again, I just find it really helpful to be like, you know what, we're all just really different. Turns out we're really different. And me personally judging that doesn't seem to do anything, because it doesn't seem to matter what I think. Like, babies are born every day, every one of these types and every one of these subtypes. So, I mean, I guess I could be mad about that and think that certain types of people are wrong, but that just doesn't seem like the right approach. It seems something more like, we're all really different, I'm noticing. And man, some of these people have such different come-froms than I do, and I don't see it their way, but because they keep showing up in that way, I'm going to make an assumption that either evolutionary processes or God or both know what they're doing, and I'm just going to let it ride at that, and I'm not going to bang my head against the wall of being annoyed about it. I'm just going to ride with it and say, wow, people are so different. So in future videos, we'll go over some of the differences. I don't want to do it today because I don't want to have a super long video. But yeah, those are the instincts. So thanks for watching. If you have, excuse me, if you have any questions, you can write them in the comments. I'm like new at this YouTube thing, so it's like, when I supposed to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.